The topic I want to touch on is why prospecting teams stay small. And you see this a lot with small teams that have a strong emphasis on outbound prospecting, like holding them really tight, holding all the agents tight to lead generation every single day. They tend to stay in the death zone of the small team longer. And again, when I say death zone, that team leader is both the leader, they are still in production heavily. The bulk of the production typically still comes from them, and they're having to be in a leader. So they're making a little bit more money, but they're working 2 to 3 times as hard. And for a very long time, small teams were all that our industry knew. In the early 2000s, even up to 2015, big teams weren't really a thing. And now they are very much a thing and growing more. And one of the reasons was that everybody was obsessed with these real tight prospecting standards. Everybody on my team is going to get onboarded XYZ. Everybody's then going to be held to a certain level of accountability where they have to make 20 contacts a day, and we're going to track those on a scoreboard, and we're going to hold those up in the team meetings. And then for 3 hours every single day, this is going to happen Monday through Friday. And I'm not saying that's bad. We teach and we coach that, but there is a stop and a start to it. I do think that's great with brand new agents and or low producers that are highly motivated to generate business right now because they got bills to pay. I do. Okay. It's very good for small teams because small teams tend to have a lot of low producers and brand new licensees. But the problem is if you stay with that system, it's very hard to become a big team. And it's hard to become a big team for a lot of reasons. You almost never see it. It's very rare. You may think you see it, but then when you get in and look at the agent mix and the agent production and the different standards, you start to see, oh, wait a minute, it's not exactly what it seems. Typically, what large teams do is they will have their new agents or their lower producers held to those tight standards because they can. Those people are highly motivated to lead generate. They got bills to pay. They are struggling. They got a gap in income. But like all humans, once they get some money, they get lazier. And that's not their need anymore. Most team leaders, most successful leaders, yes, you have this motivation that very few other people have. Okay. And when we get mad that our other people don't have that same drive and motivation that you have for whatever reason you have, understand if they had the same drive and motivation as you, they would be your competitor. They would not be working for you. They would not need you. They would not need a leader. Make sense? You need followers when you're a leader, and they will not have your motivation. However, to go from like a small team to a big, so typically what we're doing with these prospecting teams is we're just doing outbound prospecting, right? We're doing expired listings, FSBO prospecting, circle prospecting. Maybe we're providing online lead sources like PPC type of leads, maybe portal leads like Zillow, Realtor, and Homes.com, whatever. And we're providing them those lower cost leads. And then we're expecting them to reach out to them and prospect, which is, I guess that's technically inbound prospecting, but it's got an equally low conversion rate. But they do work and they're great. And we teach and we coach those things and they're fabulous. But the problem is, even if you are able to attract a lot of those agents, your turnover is going to be very high because no one really wants to be a telemarketer forever. I know you don't as the leader. In fact, when people first sign up to get their real estate license, they're not signing up to be a telemarketer. They're not. They want a way out of that. They burn out of that eventually. And if they can find a way out that's not on your team, they eventually will take it if you don't have a way out within your team. So that turnover gets very high if we really try to squeeze those agents tight because of our very strict accountability and standards. And there was a time that everybody would just like admire, oh, that team runs like a machine. But then you look at it, it's like, but it's not that big. And that team leader's still in production or they're still having to lead the team because they can't get big enough to get enough production coming from the agents on their team to justify that team leader's step out. Just not enough because they're just too tight with their systems. A good example of that would be a very large brokerage. If you've got a brokerage with 1,000 agents in it, I almost guarantee the leader of that brokerage isn't selling. They're out. And there's probably no standards, whatever. You know what I mean? They just sign up, hang their license with them, and y'all do what you want to do. But they're still out. Make sense? So that's like the other end of the spectrum. I'm not saying you need to go there. But when we are so incessant on everyone prospecting and everyone hitting their numbers, what you do is you get a very large team that's chocked full of low producers and new agents. And you wonder, how do all these other teams get top producers and influential agents to join them? How do we up our reputation so that they're willing to join us? And that's quite frankly the problem. Those prospecting teams, at least the agents on them, have a very low reputation amongst their peers. For example, would any agent that sells 25 transactions a year just from business that comes to them from their own database, their own sphere of influence, ever go join a prospecting team? That would look like such a big demotion. That would feel like such a step backwards publicly in front of all the other agents. They're all going to be saying, why did she join that team? She must be failing. And that's really the only reason they do it. If the team is just a bunch of new producers and new licensees, your agent mix will dictate what comes to you. So how do we make it acceptable to become a large team that has top producers on it, that don't leave, and so that when agents come through, they don't feel like they have to leave when they're burnt out or they're getting enough business from their own database? Is we have to make room for them. We have to have some sort of path or plan. And I think most people know we really prescribe to a matching standard where we're rewarding them to bring in business from their own SOI, and that becomes the key criteria for lead distribution. I'll give you leads when you generate and bring in your own leads. So we're really encouraging them to learn to fish, not just to receive fish. And if we implement one of our standards for that, there's a lot of different ways we can run that too. And we talk about those all the time, and our coaches coach it all the time. That way, all of a sudden, they can earn out of lower commission structures because they're bringing business from their own and they're not necessarily receiving team leads as much. And we can actually charge them less that way. So they have a better commission split. And all of a sudden, we've got top producers on our team, which keeps retention much better because now these agents realize, wait, those people aren't leaving. I just want to be like those people that doesn't have to prospect every day and they've got business coming to them. And other agents will feel free to join your team too now because you see you've got a percentage of your population that has top producers. There's a significant percentage of your population that are top producers, which makes it socially acceptable within the industry for me to join it too. And that changes everything. That's how small teams grow slowly. And then suddenly, it's once they are able to actually show that they're moving with 2, 3, 4 top producers on their team. Then once a few agents join, make that public decision to join the team, now we've got social proof that agents are choosing to join that team. I wonder why. You see what I'm saying? And that's when they really go. But to do that, you've got to lessen standards. We can't have everybody on the same commission split. We're obviously not going to have those top producers joining. Okay, come on down and you're going to prospect for 3 hours every single day and I'm going to hold you accountable. They don't want that. That's their needs. It's a very small percentage of agents that want that. And it's very hard to be a big team with a niche lead source. Think about it. The NAR's survey of home sellers and buyers every single year for the 35 years I've been in the industry has said that around 80% of all closed transactions were done through sphere of influence business, which means the buyer or seller either knew the agent or knew someone that knew the agent, which means the other 20% of the business was all done by everything else you've heard of. 20% of all the sales include FSBOs, expireds, circle prospecting, social media ads, PPC ads, farming, everything else. Everything else falls into that. And I know we've all heard it over and over again. You got to work your database. You got to work your database. It's the low-hanging fruit. You're going to hear it again right now. But understand, that's what every agent wants, including whoever's watching this. You didn't get your license thinking you'd have to telemarket and prospect every day. You got your license with the dream that you'd have a big market share and a lot of people that you knew would just be reaching out to you. And that's what that business is. And if you don't have a place for those types of people, you're going to alienate 80% of the agents out there. which is a big, now you're only playing with the small, hungry, broke chunk, and no one wants to hang out in your neighborhood. See, the big teams and the big brokerages for that matter, they know they got to be big. So you've got to allow for different neighborhoods inside your city. You're going to have different types of agents when you're big. Not everyone's going to be like a prospecting robot. Some people get over that. Some people move on from that. Some people love it and want to keep doing it too, and that's fine. But if you're going to be big, you have to allow for different neighborhoods. So you got to get over your own systems and structures a little bit. If you want to step out of production, if you want to step out of team leadership. If you don't and you just want to keep running with your small elite SWAT team, go for it for as long as you can hang on to it. But someday, trust me, you will get burnt out. June, July, every single year. When you want to take more vacations, things like that. If you don't have a place you're headed, if you're not growing, you know the adage, you're dying. Sooner or later, you'll start to realize, wow. And that's why small teams get stuck for decades as small teams. That's probably the biggest thing I see out there. So really talk about opening up your standards. And I don't mind you treating new agents that way, but we got to have a program for higher producers to come to your team and stop writing them off as people that can't join your team. You're looking at it way too narrowly. So I hope that helps.